Test, test. Okay, so the idea with the board is going to be that the traces between the memory are actually going to be a lot shorter. The DIMMs and the memory modules are actually all going to be exactly the same as normal DDR5, but it's about the fact that the modules are going to be so much smaller and then the traces between the boards are going to be a lot shorter. Now this is going to allow much higher clocks with a lot more stability, so that is the general idea with this. They say it's with a Z790 chipset at the moment, but it's pretty much going to be focused towards next gen, and that's all we're allowed to say at the moment, but I think we all know what they mean. Okie dokie, so MSI are trying to make things much easier for us when we build our first PC. Now please remember I'm doing this with one hand and I'm also filming at the same time with the other hand, so you just slide the M.2 on and then click, and that is it, we are done. I'll show you again, don't forget I am doing this with one hand and filming with the camera at the same time, and I still managed to do it. With the one without the big heatsink on the top, you literally just pull the tab to the side and it gets released, and then you just line it up and click as well. You literally just pull the pin to the side and off, and then push back and click. Okay, so we have multiple people helping, but what we're going to do is we're going to do the easy antenna. So effectively now you don't have to screw your Wi-Fi antennas in, they literally just magnetically clip into place, so it just makes life a bit easier. So again, I'm doing this with one hand, but that's it. Really nice and simple, no screws, no fiddling, and the pull release just as simply, it's all ridiculously easy. Okay, so don't get confused. It's not a graphics card. This is an M.2 expander. You can see around the back of the PCB itself, it's quite light. There's not a lot going on in there. With a graphics card, you'd have the big core and everything in the middle. But around the back, you can see there are two gates that can be opened, and you can slide an M.2 holder and heatsink out, and then it can go back in again as well. And there are two in there, and then you have the large fan at the top to keep everything cool. So for those M.2 drives that are very hot, PCI Express 5, I'm going to say not Sabrent, because Sabrent ones don't suffer with heat problems, but you do have a large holder to keep everything cool and keep your performance up. We're just going to have to wait and see about PCI Express layouts on new CPUs and new boards, but I'm going to hope it means that with the new AMD processors we're going to have spare PCI Express 5 lanes, because at the moment we don't. So this could be a hint of things to come. Okie dokie, so we're just going to whiz straight onto, this is the new Product Zero build, but it's got the CAM2 memory on it. So if I come down and show you inside the case, I can show you the water cooling loop. Now you'll see that the water block on the memory is perfectly flat. Also we've got the new Easy 120 fans. These are incredibly sexy, but anyway, stay focused on the CAM2. You can see it's perfectly flat. Now the memory is actually still there because this is what's underneath. You've got a bits power water block on top. You can see the Kingston Fury memory around the back, and this is the CAM memory behind it. Now if I show you on the board, again I'm doing this with one hand. I can remove the heatsink. You've got the thermal pad, the easy release, but there is your memory module there. Now there are lots of pins around the back of the actual memory module itself, which I'll show you. So they're not entirely sure whether this is going to make it into the enthusiast market or not, but it has the same benefits of the memory that I've already shown you. The traces are much smaller, which means they're going to be able to run much higher frequencies and keep stability. It's going to be better for air coolers because of the height, but it's all of these pins that they are specifically worried about. If you look carefully, it might be a whole new CPU pin problem that we end up with. But one of the things we do need to remember is it's very, very cool when companies start innovating, because it can change the look of our equipment massively. Now, I'm already wanting to paint all of this, and these large areas could lend themselves to designs and being able to put decals and graphics on, or more artwork. So Project Zero and the future with new memory modules could be quite exciting. Okie dokie, so moving on to the Mag Core Liquid i360 White. They've actually done something pretty cool with the socket, but what I wanted to show you first is something I thought was pretty nice, especially where I'm in Asia at the moment. It feels like some of the meals you get in the supermarkets in Asia where everything's perfectly laid out. But it's to make your life easy. Rather than loads of separate bags, you can see all the different parts that you're going to need for your AM standoffs, your Intel standoffs, and etc. But what they have done is, if you have a look, we have a combination port for the Intel and the AMD bracket. So you've got the Intel bracket around the outside, and then these ones around here are actually for AM5. So you don't need separate brackets anymore to make things confusing. So it should make things a lot easier. Also, once the pump bolts on, the pump is there around the outside, so it should pretty much cover everything up as well. So it should simplify things for new users, but also make life easier and quicker for those of us that have built one before. They do have this bracket around the outside to cover fan cables up, but it only comes with one. And I don't know about you, when I build my PCs, I make sure the fan cables are always at the back, right by the motherboard anyway. So it's kind of hiding the cables that I'm not going to need hidden anyway. But have said to MSI, they need to have the trim around the top as well. So I'm already reviewing products and they're not even in my hands yet. But I do feel, if you have a look, the trim is here. It is easily removable and refittable, but I do think it needs to cover this in case this part is at the front of your case where you can see it. Okie dokie. So a quick look around the new X870 motherboards. It is incredibly busy here, so I'm just going to give you a quick scan around. You can see the AM5 socket, get to see the boards. The other things that we can point out, this is the new Tomahawk X870. You can see that we've got they finally got the release for the PCI Express. There are also the quick release pins down here for the M.2. On here they're underneath, so there is a little tab there that I can release to pop it off, but it's really difficult for me to do it with one hand. I will say though, I really like the fact with the Tomahawk they are bringing the yellow back, but this reminds me of the old Lightning days. But my point is, more than anything, it's actually really nice to see some colour on the boards, and I think for a Tomahawk this does look really pretty. Okay, whizzing on quickly, another AIO, but even though it does have the same bracket, it does have some really cool features because they finally got one with a screen. And as you can see here, it's a 4.3-inch IPS panel. It does allow you to be able to adjust it as well, so you can set it accordingly. And they've simplified the cabling. So that's a USB-C that goes into the pump. And then there are a few options for how you connect the radiator to your system, because the input for the system where the USB and everything is actually goes into the radiator first. So you have a few options based around USB But it is worth noting that the main input from your motherboard into the unit itself actually goes into the radiator first, which I thought was quite cool. But obviously the party trick of this is the screen. Okay, so MSI do have these new dual level fans. I say dual level, it's more dual bladed. As you can see, there are a secondary set of fins, so you have an inner and an outer section. If I show you the graphic on the other side, you can see there's dual layer blades, but when they pour the smoke through, as you'll see, you get a much focused flow. Could be interesting for radiators. We'll have to see whether it works in cases or not. Also, there is a switch on the back of the fans themselves. There's high, medium and low, so you can manually restrict them. Obviously, if you have it on high, you can still set them within your motherboard software when they're connected, but it is a way that you can tweak them if you wanted to, but if you've got enough fan headers, you might not need that anyway. Okie dokie. So next up is the MEG AI 16T. The T stands for titanium. I'm also going to say that it stands for twin because it has twin 12 volt 2x6. So effectively with the AI it could mean that you're running two graphics cards, so you have one dedicated to AI usage, but with it being 1600 watts it should be able to cope with two massive graphics cards anyway. Also it's going to come with the excellent MSI dual colour cables, but it is incredibly pretty to look at. I really love the gold accents across the top, and the RGB down the side, not so keen, but it does flick to like a bronzy gold mode after this. It's all going to be fully configurable though, because if you look carefully there you can see a Type C port, which means you're going to be able to control it in the software on the board. I have asked them whether they can monitor it for so you'll be able to monitor power load and usage and everything as well, but you can set up how the rails work, and you can also set up the fan speeds and everything as well. Okie dokie, so just a quick video on the Spatum with a non-metal vapor chamber. So effectively they've put some water in a water block directly on top of your NVMe. Now obviously it's quite big. I'm going to hope that NVMEs are going to get a lot cooler, but it's definitely pretty cool. I'm not sure whether the camera's going to pick it up, but I do keep seeing the bubbles from the vapor chamber coming up. If you had some different lighting and stuff in it, it could be a cool feature in your PC, but as I said, I'm going to be completely honest and hope that NVMEs are not going to need extreme cooling like this for much longer. With my testing of the Sabrent drives recently on the PCI Express 5, it's just not been needed. Okay, so MSI have a new fusion concept, and I'm actually really grateful because they are doing the Supreme and the Expert, and if I'm honest, the Expert just looks like such a better product. So you can see it's got the radiator built in, but it fits in around the fans on the Expert as well. You can see it's got a 120mm AIO built in. It just looks so neat and pretty, whereas with the Supreme... Okay, so we're just going to have a quick look at the MSI Vision X AI. Effectively, they've brought out quite a compact case height-wise, although they've not given me sizes, but there is a huge touch screen on the front which you can use to show system specs. I'm not sure whether you can use it actually as a browser or anything. We will see. Aha! Yeah, you can. So this is cool. So you can actually use it as an extra monitor. So that's kind of cool.
Am I controlling this?
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I didn't mean it.
That's okay. Carry on.
Try to turn this one on.
You carry on there, I'll work around. Okay, so I was controlling that, but I was interrupting this gentleman filming, so that's completely my own fault. We were just looking around the back now. So there's quite a few RGB aspects to it. Down the side, there's some highlighting down on the front as well. But you can effectively use the case as a completely touchscreen friendly secondary screen. Could be good for Discord, could be good for notifications, emails when you're gaming, even could be good for really large system specs to show temperatures and stuff while you are gaming on your main system.